welcome back to my channel. I went wide and deep and found some amazing dark academia recommendations that I'd like to share with you. So let's get right into it. I am going to start off with my all-time favorite, the House of Night series. So this series is about, I think, 12 books, and this is the first book which is marked. And oh my gosh, you guys, this book is amazing. Typically this book actually picks up, like the first 5 to 6 books are really good, and then it drops down a bit. I feel that's what happens to all series that are really long, but then you really want to get through and complete the series. So like book 11 and 12 are like something that you could finish up to complete the series. So I would still recommend it because it gives you those amazing haunting vibes. What happens in this book is we follow Zoe Redbird, who is on the cover, and she finds out that she is a fledgling, which is like before she becomes a vampire. So she needs to go to the House of Night, which is a school for all fledglings, and then at some point in time they turn to actual vampires. If they don't turn, then they die. So the school coaches them as to how to become full-fledged vampires, and there is a lot of antagonists in this book or in the series per se, and all of them have well developed personalities. And what I really liked was the entire group of people in the book, all her friends, even like the antagonist friends of hers, everybody were just so beautifully fleshed out. So I really enjoyed the series by PC and Kirsten Cast, who are actually a mother-daughter duo, which I thought was also brilliant because it feels like that's an addition on top of the book. If you want me to just read this cute little excerpt in the back. The bad news was that I'd have to move into the House of Night, a private boarding school known by all of my friends as the Vampire Finishing School, where I would spend the next 4 years going through bizarre and unnameable physical changes. But the good news was that I wouldn't have to take the geometry test tomorrow. So when 16-year-old Zoe is marked by the tracker, she knows her whole life is over. Now she has to leave her friends and family to join the House of Night school, where there's only one subject Joey needs to study: Vampire 101. Of course, there's always a catch, and this one's nice and simple. If you fail, you die. So this whole series gives you that complete sense of dark academia vibes. I think it's one of the best books that capture that. So if you're looking for something easy, teensy, a little bit young adult, more on high school vibes, then I would definitely recommend this. Next book I'm recommending is Truly Devious, and I have just started reading this book, but I immediately knew like 2-3 chapters down the line that this is going to feature in my dark academia recommendations, and I think that it's going to be one of my favorite reads this year. So far it's been brilliant. So essentially there is a school for special abilities kids, as in kids who are overly brilliant or exert some sort of special ability. So what happens is, at one point in time there is a murder and there's a lot of investigations that take place, and our main protagonist, who I think is I forgot her name, Stevie Bell, yes, she goes to this school. So they get picked and then they get a free admission in the school, and she goes to this private school and starts investigating about murders that take place there. Now the whole vibe is perfect, especially to read when there are like thunderstorms, it's raining, it's eerie. You can just switch off like the lights by a lamp or a candlelight. Brilliant read, especially during the winters or rainy seasons with lightning. It's just a perfect read. So I would recommend this book. Next book I want to recommend is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Now this isn't a typical academia vibes, but it still falls under the dark academia category, especially since it has a lot of dark vibes with Kaz and his crew who do heists. So I have read Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I somehow felt that Six of Crows was so much better than Crooked Kingdom. Like, this book got me invested in so many levels with all of these characters. And I completely fell in love with Cass because he is so mysterious and full of suspense, but at the same time, he knows what he's doing, he gets what he wants. He's like the perfect guy to like perform a heist, I would say. So if you can imagine a heist that takes place in a fantasy world, then that is the way I would sum up Six of Crows for you. So think Ocean's 11 plus, I don't know, maybe a Harry Potter vibe, and that's how it feels. Of course, you don't have all the elements of Harry Potter in it. You don't have dragons and witches and wizards, but still, it takes place in a fantasy world, and hence that was my example. But if you like things that are related to a little bit more of suspense and thrillers, but at the same time a lot of dark vibes, then I would recommend Six of Crows. Next book I am recommending is The Secret Circle. And this Secret Circle is again, I think, about 4 or 6 books. I'm not sure. So this is the first 2 books that are as part of this edition. So this is the Initiation and the Captive Part 1. So what I really loved about the series is it follows this girl called Cassie who moves to England from US, and she moves to like a new school there, and eventually figures out that her friends are all part of a coven, and she herself has magical powers, or let's say witchy powers. So this book is primarily into witchcraft and covens and initiations and seances and everything that you can think of witches slash wizards. So I really enjoyed it. It is really simple, not too complicated, but at the same time there is a lot of things that are happening in this book. I would highly recommend this from a dark academia point of view. It's often underrated that we always see like books that are generally released new, but I really wanted to pick some recommendations that are not necessarily new, plus accessible, so you can also read these books as well. The next book I'm going to recommend is the Sweep series, and oh my gosh, this is amazing as well. So I think this has about 12 books again, if I'm not wrong, and this particular edition that I have has 3 books as part of it. So this is Book of Shadows, The Coven, and Blood Witch. Again, this is going to give you witchy vibes and a lot of magic and wizardry. I'll just read the excerpt at the back. So it says, Morgan Rowlands never thought she was anything other than a typical 16-year-old girl. But when she meets Cal, a captivatingly handsome coven leader, she makes a discovery that turns her whole world upside down. She is a witch, descended from an ancient and powerful line, and so is Cal. Their connection is immediate and unbreakable. Cal teases out Morgan's power, her love, her magic. But Morgan discovers too soon that her powers are strong, almost too powerful to control. And she begins to suspect that Cal, her love, her soulmate, may be keeping secrets from her, secrets that could destroy them both. So this is like an epic saga. So there are like 12 books, and I feel that these are very easy to read. In fact, they are beginner friendly, so you don't have to get too invested, but at the same time the plot keeps moving on. There is a story, and all the characters are also really lovable, and you get invested in them. So I would recommend the Sweep series as well. Next book I would like to recommend is Hex Hall by Rachel Hawkins, and again, this book is quite underrated, I must say. This is again going to follow a bunch of girls from high school who are all there with some special powers or abilities, and everything that they go through along their stay. So if I quickly read about this book, it says, when 16-year-old Sophie Mercer discovers she's a witch, she imagines life will be full of magic, fun, and, well, broomsticks. But her first attempt at a love spell goes disastrously wrong, and as punishment, Sophie is shipped off to Hex Hall, a reform school for witches, shapeshifters, and fairies. By the end of her first day, among her fellow freak teens, Sophie has quite a scorecard: 3 powerful enemies who look like supermodels, a futile crush on a gorgeous warlock, a creepy tag-along ghost, and a new roommate who happens to be the most hated person on campus and the only vampire. Worse, Sophie soon learns that a mysterious predator has been attacking students and her only friend is the number one suspect. So this is just a fun book. I think this has about 3 or 4 books, or if it's a trilogy if I'm not wrong. And this school is called Freak High, where we have witches, vampires, magics, everything. So again, I feel like this would be a great read on a rainy thunderstorm evening, and definitely huge dark academia vibes. Next book that I want to recommend is Ninth House. This is again by Leigh Bardugo, who is also the author of Six of Crows. I personally didn't enjoy Ninth House as much as I enjoyed Six of Crows, but I know a lot of people who enjoyed Ninth House, so I really wanted to put this as part of my recommendations as well. Plus, it fits the dark academia category to the dot. And this book has perfect prestigious school vibes, secret societies, and a lot of thrillers and mysteries that happen in campus. So if that's the kind of vibe that you're going for, then I would highly recommend Ninth House. The next book that I wanted to recommend is If We Were Villains. Now this book is slightly different from the other books that I've recommended, because this follows a person who's been put in jail and then he's just been left out, and he along with a bunch of people have to prove that they are innocent. So if I read like the small excerpt here, Oliver Marks has just served 10 years in jail for a murder he may or may not have committed. On the day he's released, he's greeted by the man who put him in prison. Detective Colborne is retiring, but before he does, he wants to know what really happened a decade ago. As one of a young actors studying Shakespeare at an elite arts college, Oliver and his friends play the same roles on stage and off: hero, villain, tyrant, temptress, ingenue, and extra. But when the casting changes and the secondary characters usurp the stars, this play spills dangerously over into life, and one of them is found dead. The rest face their greatest acting challenge yet, convincing the Pollers and themselves that they are blameless. I just felt like this story, it fits with, you know, a lot of murder and dark mystery vibes, and it's really dark as you go reading through the book. But I also love that it's a little bit different from the other academia books that I have just recommended, and so I really wanted to put this in my recommendation. So if this is something that you would be interested in, then I would highly recommend it. The next book I wanted to recommend is Grim Rose Girls, and this is by far my favorite. So Grim Rose Girls is about a bunch of friends who actually find out there are some murders that happen at their elite prestigious school, and the police actually mark them as suicide and close the case. However, they know that there is something more than that suicide, and so they start investigating and realize that everything that happens in the school is kind of related to fairy tales, especially fairy tale curses, ancient ones, and so they're bound to like find out what is happening. And so I felt that this was brilliant. It was like so different and so unique. Then all the characters were really endearing, and I really enjoyed this book. It also falls perfectly in the dark academia category. So if you're interested in something with ancient fairy tale curses, elite academies, murders, investigations, then I would really recommend this one. The last recommendation I have, and not definitely in by any way the least, is a series of unfortunate events. Now this is a tad different from all of the books I recommended, but I had to put this in. So this is again a series. There are about like 13 books, and this book is primarily targeted for middle graders, but I really don't believe in the tags for who should read what. So this book is written from a narrator's point of view, where he talks about 3 siblings who are orphans after their parents died in a mysterious fire in their big house, and they are shipped off to different relatives of theirs by a banker who has been entrusted with them finding a guardian. So there is one particular person who is always behind their money. That is the most evil uncle of theirs. However, The reason why I wanted to recommend this book is because this book is written in a format that is so different from all of the other books. If you've not read this before, I really want to read the excerpt here, so just listen to that. Dear reader, I'm sorry to say that the book you are holding in your hands is extremely unpleasant. It tells an unhappy tale about three unlucky children. Even though they are charming and clever, the Baudelaire siblings lead lives filled with misery and woe. From the very first page of this book, when the children are at the beach and receive terrible news, continuing on throughout the entire story, disaster lurks at their heels. One might say that they are magnets for misfortune. In this short book alone, the three youngsters encounter a greedy and repulsive villain, itchy clothing, a disastrous fire, a plot to steal their fortune, and cold porridge for breakfast. It is my sad duty to write down these unpleasant tales, but there is nothing stopping you from putting this book down at once and reading something happy, if you prefer that sort of thing. With all due respect, Lemony Snicket. If that doesn't draw you into a book, I'm not sure what does, because the whole writing of this book and all of the other 11 books follow the same format, and every para you go through, you keep getting told that you're putting yourself through misfortune and woe and sadness and unhappiness by reading these stories. But I think that's the beauty of this author and how he's written these books. So I would highly recommend this series to you. It's a little bit slow and can be a little bit daunting for first time readers, unfortunately, because it doesn't follow like a normal writing pattern. But if you have the time, if you have the patience, then I will highly recommend this. So there you go. Those are all my dark academia recommendations for you. If you love this video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and I will see you with more recommendations in my future videos. Thank you.